All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Elite 100, arguably my favorite hour of the week. Love seeing you guys. It's good to be here with my my peer group and my friends and family. And hopefully you guys are having an amazing week. So before we get into wins, just show of hands, who's having the best year of their life? And I mean, honestly, like 2023, who's having the best year of their life? And if you're not, it's okay, because not every year is going to be the best. But man, it seems like ever since I think 3 years ago when we started this group here specifically, my life has just consistently gotten better and better and better. And I don't think it's a coincidence. It's this group here, this group of peers. So that's my win. You guys are all my win. This group, the way it's growing, the new members we're attracting, and I think all the successes that we're all having together. So who else has a win they want to share? And then we can get into the mastermind principles. Tim?
Hey, Brian, thanks. I'm selling a mid-ticket coaching, like $5,000, and I'm closing like 90% and attracting all the right people. And just the next 2 weeks we're starting, and I just can't wait to have my own electric room that I run. And Chris Patterson came on to my group yesterday and gave just an incredible talk, and it was so cool. And I'm also gunning for my $20,000 product next. So I'm doing a domination day with Chris in a couple weeks, and he's just going to drill me on all the sales tactics and all this public speaking, and I'm just pumped.
Yeah, Chris is an absolute gangster. I know he won the speaking challenge at Dave's event there, which is pretty cool. He's super proud of his microphone trophy. So Chris and I collaborate on a lot of things too. So great guy, absolute great guy. Greg, what about you, bud?
Yeah, just a huge shout out to Dave Van Hoos. I know Dave's on the call here. I attended his speakers training a couple weeks ago as well with Chris and Angie, and just an amazing experience. Obviously, Yun's done it, Matt's done it as well. But I met a guy there. His name is G. Dave knows G pretty well, and man, we are collaborating like on my 4% fund stuff. Just an amazing stuff. And so it's just, I'm so grateful for that. So grateful for Dave, obviously, and just pouring into us over the last weekend. And I'm just grateful for that. So that's my win.
I love it, love it, love it.
And you know, what's interesting, Greg, is he asked me about you and talking about me when I was on the boat with him. So really good guy. Actually, Brian knows him too. Really good guy. So hopefully you guys can do something special together. Hey, Brian, I've got a quick video of some of our Matrix people. Can I play it real quick?
Yeah, let me give you screen share.
Okay, cool. Okay. All right, where is it at now? Where do I find it? Go to right here. Downloads.
Why don't we do this, Dave? We'll read the mastermind principles while you're finding that.
Oh, I got it right here.
You got it? Okay.
Here it is. All right.
Powerful. Exhilarating. My entire cellular level has elevated. Life altering and empowering in all the best ways.
What to do, how to do it, when to do it is the systematic plan on how to give the most amazing speech possible, not just to speak, but to actually sell to many more speaking, to just stop and do it. This will completely shift not only your ability to speak, but who you are as a human. I really do believe that this is more than just about speaking. It's about making the biggest impact in the world. And what is the best way to do that than to change the lives of many in one opportunity? So,
what is going on? On your mind? Are your feelings gone?
This weekend has literally been life altering. You will cry while you're here. You will laugh while you're here. You will eat fire while you're here. So just so you know, you're going to face a lot of fears. I promise you.
So what a great time. Unbelievable.
Yeah, we get tons of good feedback from that. Tons of good feedback. Everybody had a blast. I love there's like a lot of matrix representation now. It looks like 2/3 of the class is
I
matrix.
know, right? I'm unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Very grateful.
Love it.
You
No,
got such a
congratulations.
powerful group.
Love it. Great job. Who would love to read the mastermind principles? And I can pull those up. Maybe somebody hasn't done it. Pick us off here. Or I'm going to go to my Tim. Okay. I was about to go to my fallback, Lenny. He's more than always ready to read those. So
I release myself to the mastermind because I am strong when I have others to help me. I believe the combined intelligence of the mastermind creates a wisdom far beyond my own. I understand that I will more easily create positive results in my life when I'm open to looking at myself, my problems, and opportunities from another's point of view. I decide to release my desire totally in trust to the mastermind, and I am open to accepting new possibilities. I forgive myself for mistakes I have made. I also forgive others who have hurt me in the past so I can move into the future with a clean slate. I ask the mastermind to hear what I really want, my goals, my dreams, and my desires, and I hear my mastermind partners supporting me in my fulfillment. I accept. I know, relax, and accept, believing that the working power of the mastermind will respond to my every need. I am grateful knowing this is so. Dedication and covenant. I now have a covenant in which it is agreed that the mastermind shall supply me with an abundance of all things necessary to live a success-filled and happy life. I dedicate myself to be of maximum service to the world and my fellow human beings, to live in a manner that will set the highest example for others to follow, and to remain an open channel of God's will. I will go forth with a spirit of enthusiasm, excitement, and expectancy.
awesome. Thank you for that, brother. Much appreciated. A little bit of housekeeping before we get going. We're going to have a link, I think sometime today. A lot of you guys are interested in Dave Steck's family office, their Be the Bank program that they have. And he's doing a special value-based, educational-based thing this Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern as a precursor to that. So it's just for our group again. It's for the Matrix Inner Circle and Elite 100. We'll get the link for that. But if you want to block out, if you're interested, again, real estate, the investment stream of being the bank, right? Of building another vertical in your portfolio. I think it'd be good to show up at for that event. It's not an event, it's just an impromptu Zoom for us, Thursday at 5 p.m. So if you want to block that out, we'll get you guys the link. And another thing I just always want to remind you guys, everybody in this group, you have the ability to join the TIR calls, the Inner Circle calls, Mindset Master calls. I know that's a lot of content. I see some of you doing that. So if anybody here is interested in attending more than just here at 12, get with Valerie or get with Angie. They'll get you the links. They can pop them in the chat. And I see a lot of you coming in. It's my belief that going through TIR is something you should do, once every 2 years or something. And I mean, fully through it like you've never taken it before. It's meant to be a repetitive process that raises your level of awareness every time you do it. So I just want to be ultra clear that you guys in this group have access to literally everything in the Matrix portfolio. So I just want to remind you of that. All right, today we're going to continue on masterminding and God works through you. And again, if you guys don't have this, my team can put a link in the chat. It's the book that we're studying in the background while we go through this journey together right now. And we've had several people suggest The Science of Getting Rich as our next book to go through. We've gone through The Power of Awareness, which was kind of theological. God Works Through You is kind of a bridge between theology and science. And The Science of Getting Rich is definitely more sort of left brain scientific. So we haven't really gone through something like that, but we can chat about that together and get your opinions when we go forward. But let me switch over. We'll jump into some content here. Let's see. All right. Does anybody not have this book before we get going? Anybody not have this? Oh, Chris. Okay, so Val, can you get with Chris? He's a brand new member. So Chris, what we're doing is obviously everybody in this group has gone through thinking the results. And a lot of you have gone through Lead the Field. If you haven't, that's additional content. So the whole idea behind the Elite 100 is to be studying and mindset together, something. So this is the book that we're studying now together. And I have this on my nightstand. I have it on my computer. I read a little bit every night or every day in this, in my office. And I've studied this book for over a year now. It's one of those books that just keeps giving and giving and giving. We've been studying it together, so Val can connect you with that. And it's very important to understand, you know, in the Elite 100, we're not really studying religion. Not that there's anything wrong with studying religion, but everybody has maybe their own versions of religion. We're studying spirit and theology. And I think what's really cool is when we come together and put our points of view and express kind of our perspective and what we think these books mean. This is one of the things I get the most value out of, and hopefully you guys do too. So I will start it off here. And again, if anybody wants to stop on any phrase or anything, just either butt in or raise your hand if I don't see it, and we'll mastermind on the content together. All right, so it says chapter 5, God works through the law. The law of the Lord is perfect. Till heaven and earth shall pass, one jot or one title should not pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he so reap. I think we've all heard that one, right? Because and all things whatsoever ye ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. The reason I highlighted that, and it's a good place to mastermind, says whatsoever we ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. What does that mean to you guys? Like, is it enough to just ask, oh, I want $1 million a month? Just flat left brain, I want $1 million a month. Right? That doesn't usually work. So what I get out of this is, prayer is like meditation. It's mental thought energy out. There's a consistency to it. And the reason I highlighted that is to remember, because I remember the first couple of years working with Bob, I would write my goal 10 times every day, but there wasn't a whole lot of feeling behind it. I wasn't actually praying or meditating. I was just doing the analytical, physical part. And I had some results, don't get me wrong. You'll get results if you're doing 2 out of 3 things. But when I started to understand the connection to source part of it, everything really changed for me. So does anybody else remember when that happened for you? When you finally started tapping into source?
Brian, this reminds me of the stick man that you showed yesterday.
Mhm.
Like you have the anxiety on the left-hand side, and then you have on the other side, the positive.
Mhm.
It's really just cooperating with the subconscious, like believing, praying, the spiritual and the mental, the intellectual. And then you get what you want as a result of it.
Well, the cool thing, what I like about what you said there, Kevin, I started realizing you can't not be in prayer. Whether we realize it or not, our beings are putting out mental thought energy all the time that we're conscious, right? So we don't realize, or at least I didn't, what prayer is. I used to think it was something you did for an hour on church on Sundays, right? Oh, you focus and you connect to source. But we're always putting out this mental thought energy. It's just a lot of times, unless you're studying and training in mindset, it's the polar opposite of what we want. And most of the world is in fear, doubt, worry, and they try to open up a business and it's fear-based. It's like scared money doesn't make money, right? You guys have all heard that. So it's the same thing. It's like scared beliefs get scared results, right? It says, whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed, and be thou cast into the sea, and shall not doubt in his heart, but shall believe that those things which he says shall come to pass, he shall have whatsoever he saith. What things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. The law of the Spirit of life in Jesus Christ hath made me free from the law of sin and death. Thou shalt love thy Lord, thy God, with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. What does that mean to you guys, Matt?
Hey, Brian.
Mhm.
So I just want to bump up to that I don't know, fourth paragraph, or wherever you stopped in there, but what things soever ye desire, when we pray, believe that ye receive them and ye shall have them.
Mhm.
So this is, I have notes from this book, and I think that Kevin kind of brought up lesson 4 in TIR. I'll go to lesson 8 as far as praxis, integrating that belief with behavior. And I know that there was a big message when we first formed this group, or when you first formed this group, talking about really believing it every cell of your body. And when you think about that, we have a gazillion cells in our body, so we really have to, absorb this, what we're capable of being spiritual beings in a human body with an intellect. And really, when it comes to the idea of praying or meditate or really focusing on what it is that we want, I have a note in here of being very intentional that the praying, even though we're just stating it out to the ether, we're having a two-way conversation, and we want to be intentional, like we're going out and having a physical conversation with someone. So I just felt that was something I wanted to throw out there.
No, 100%. And a good example is that we've all been through TIR. Most of you have been through Lead the Field, and if not, you will, and have been studying. But how many people study this book every day? And just put your hands up, the little chat, or maybe put your hands up, right? So for me, it's definitely Monday through Friday. I sometimes do miss Saturday and or Sunday, truth be told. So I'm 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes Sunday as well. But it's pretty consistent, right? Mostly because, this is one of our businesses. We teach this. I'm on one-on-ones. I was on a one-on-one with Ian the other day, and Kyle the other day. We were actually going through some of this. So, but ask yourself that, because it's easy to fall off, especially when life's going well. Everybody in this group, your life is going very well especially compared to the rest of the world. I don't know anybody here that's really going through, extensive trauma. And if you are, we can chat on the side or something. But by and large, we're all doing very well, and we're together. But it's easy to fall off of this, isn't it? It's easy to fall off of that daily study of like connection to source. And it's super easy to fall off of meditation and prayer. I've noticed that as life gets going really, really well, and we're like, oh, I guess I made it. So this has happened to me too, guys, and I'm in this every day. So don't beat yourself up if that's happening. But what I will say is let's all recommit to this part of the deal, where you're consistently going to the mental gym, right? Consistently going to the mental gym. Because I've seen a lot of people, very lot of people, and it may have even happened with you. They go through a year, 6 months or a year of content, and then they kind of fall off, and they just get, and then I'll see the results fall off too. That's happened with me. Has that happened with anybody else here, where you've kind of gotten comfortable? Lenny, Tim, yeah. So I think what's good about a group like this, we meet every week. And the only thing you really need to commit to is meeting every week, because we'll always get you reconnected. There's accountability. We study stuff together. But if you haven't been reading this book, lesson 2 is the knowing doing gap. Buy it, print it out, whatever, digital. I have a Kindle, my phone. Just start reading a couple pages a night and following along with us. And I've read it over and over and over again. So watch what happens. Super powerful. Let's see. So it talks about here, those shall love thy Lord God with all thy heart. What does that mean to you guys? Love thy Lord, thy God with all thy heart.
Sounds like it means you got to be all in. I don't know what else I can conclude from that, or what I can say to elaborate, but sounds like you just got to be completely all in your belief that there is something greater than yourself. And honestly, I don't know what else to add beyond that.
It's a big phrase, right? It's a big concept. Yeah. So how I look at this, God, universe, source, whatever you want to say, is infinite. All science and all theology points to an infinite intelligence. And I think everybody here subscribes to that in some way, shape, or form. Well, the left brain side of me says there's no subsets of infinity. You can't divide infinity. Infinity is never ending, all encompassing. It's infinite, the very word, right? So thou shalt love everything. Even when you get the foreclosure, or your body is in dis-ease, or the loss of a loved one, this is just my opinion, a higher level of awareness is loving all that is, people, plants, animals, experiences. Viktor Frankl, how he felt about the Nazis that slaughtered his family at a higher level of awareness. And that's what I think we're doing here is we're continually raising our level of awareness to look back at ourselves and question things, because we've all been through quote unquote hard times, but relatively speaking, probably not compared to, I always use Viktor Frankl. So I look at that as thou shalt love everything. And, do I love everything? I'm working towards that. I have to remind myself, right? Especially when there's some pain in the ass, whatever situation going on. Yun?
I do love this book. It's pretty amazing. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on this.
Absolutely.
Just like Einstein talks about, right? Einstein's a pretty brilliant man. And he talks about that everything below the speed of light is where matter exists, right? And within matter, it's all lives by the universal laws and the law of polarity and duality. So everything has a positive and negative, no matter what the grander scheme of things. And so I'm a huge believer through evolution of mankind, there's been a lot of masculine energy, right? A lot of do, task. I do believe, I'm a huge believer that we're in the feminine energy, where it is all about love. And Kevin, you wrote it, I think it was, that unconditional love. It is that oneness. And that oneness exists anything above the speed of light. And that's the frequencies and the vibrations that we all have the capability of tapping into. And that is the infinite knowledge. That is the infinite source, right? So it is everything. And just remembering the fact that when contrast shows up, that is the good, because it is that within that expands us as humans. Like, think about that, right? Like all the suffering and everything that exists, it expands us into who we're becoming as a whole, individually, collectively, all of it. So there is no such thing as good or bad. It's all great. It's all love. And so when we can approach life with love, that's truly where I believe we are here right now, is to bring that awareness to the forefront.
I love that, especially when you say, when I talk to people that are not in this group and at a lower level of awareness and frequency, and I say there's no such thing as good or bad, they don't process that. They don't accept it. It's my opinion based on study over time. It doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. They just don't understand the concept of perspective and how we label things.
So I just want to read one thing too, that I just read this morning, and it's, I got to tell you, like, I love Joe Dispenza because he explains the science of things. So a lot of times I find myself repeating a lot of the things that he reads or he writes, but I just want to read one sentence that is so powerful. And it really is what it is. We don't perceive things in our reality the way they are. We perceive reality the way we are, right? Our entire reality is literally an expression of our underlying belief system. Our belief system. And with that said, we as humans are so magical. We have the power to create any belief in anything, whatever we believe it is to be. That's how powerful we as humans are. Every single. So I leave this. Whenever we have an occurrence, whether we're meeting with people, places, and things, and you feel like you have a judgment towards it, you have a criticism, you want to point criticism towards it, just keep in mind that judgment is within you. That's what's holding you back. Nothing else.
See a lot of heads
nodding. Our reality is just an expression of who we are and what we are. It's more important to look at one thing at an infinite number of perspectives versus looking at one thing or a million things through one
perspective. Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's the real importance of this group, because correct me if I'm wrong, most of you go back to your lives the rest of the week until next Tuesday, and you're probably not having a lot of conversations like this where we're really focusing on source in Elite 100. You can get all the sales training and all the real estate training. We have that here too, but that's not like the focus of the Elite 100. The focus is actually tapping into source and raising our level of awareness and all this. So beautifully said, Yun. Greg?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that stands out, obviously, this is a very religious sort of context with this, but, traditional religious belief has you think really and operate from the fact that here's me, here's God, and there's this great separation, right? And so when you know that like you are God, God is part of you, right? There is no separation. You can start to unleash really some really powerful things, obviously, right? I mean, Viktor Frankl is obviously one of those things where between stimulus and response, you have the decision to choose, right? And he chose to love, not hate, right? In the most extreme circumstances. So in this case, obviously, that we have to know, we have to believe, we have to absorb, we have to just become the belief of, we are God, right? And not the sense that it's this elitist thing, but rather it's a mindset thing. It's just part of who we are. And that's a very powerful place to remain in, but also obviously a very powerful place to know that you have the ability to help and serve others in a very, very big way. And I think that's a very beautiful place. It's a very beautiful way to live, obviously.
I love that point of view. And I have something that might help some people too. A lot of times, again, not so much in this group, if we say we are God, people think it's like blasphemous. Right. So I like to, with those people, I say we're an expression of God. Right. There's this infinite intelligence that we call God that is expressing to and through us. This book is called God Works Through You, right? That's what it is. So we're expressing physically, we have consciousness, which is part of God consciousness. So I find that some people, again, not in this group, process it and relate to it easier if I say we are an expression of God. It's, oh yeah, I agree with that. But I've had some people say when I am God, they're like, they stonewall. So it might be for some of you guys, if you're talking to people that are, again, not in this group, it might be an easier way to explain it. Greg, do you want to take over here? There we have the law.
Yeah, absolutely. There we have the law. What do we do with it? How do we put it to work? And it is italicized. Prayer is so evidently a medium through which the law works that perhaps we should examine our concept of prayer. Do you tend to think of prayer only as a formal phrasing of words addressing to the deity? Then you must get a new concept, for you have the injunction, pray without ceasing. You are also told to enter into thy closet when you pray. How can you pray without ceasing if you must go apart to pray? We are told to pray to our Father which is in heaven, and then told that the kingdom of heaven is within us.
So I love this part here because it talks about why the masses are confused about what we call God and tapping into source and studying spirit. It's super confusing if you just take things at face value. We don't dig deeper into the meanings of stuff. I like this part where it says pray without ceasing. Because this is the part where I say you're doing this anyway. We are all doing this anyway. It's just a lot of it is in chaos and conflict. Like we get excited, we get sad, we get a feeling of abundance, we get a feeling of restriction. Happy, sad, right? Where a lot of people are letting the environment push their vibrations around. Instead of, like Yun said, you can perceive one thing a million ways. So whatever the thing is like, why not choose to perceive it in a way that serves yourself, your family, and your loved ones? Does anybody else have anything on this before I move forward?
Hey, Brian, I don't see an option to raise my hand for whatever reason in the little tool of trace. Yeah,
jump right in. Yeah, jump in.
It's going to be a little bit of a tangent, but it's a thought experiment that I find pretty empowering, I guess, for lack of a better word. I don't know if any of you guys have ever watched the cartoon Rick and Morty, but it's supposed to be the smartest cartoon on television. And it's all about this idea that it's kind of a nihilistic viewpoint that there's infinite numbers, there's the multiverse, right? So there's infinite realities in which some version of us exists. And if that's the case, then nothing we really do matters because there's an infinite number of ourselves elsewhere, separated by dimensions or whatever it is. But I like to think of that as sort of a bit of a challenge, I guess, because I know comparison to others is thought of as the thief of joy, and I tend to agree with that. But if you imagine comparing yourself to another version of yourself in another universe, if there's literally infinite versions of our universe out there, then somewhere in one of those universes, there's a version of you that's like the emperor of the entire universe, that is the pinnacle of what you could possibly be, right? And just to think about comparing yourself to, damn it, there's a Blake Steck out there that is literally crushing it as hard as anybody else in the universe. I need to live up to that. So just kind of a cool little thought experiment that I try to occasionally do with myself that you guys might find valuable.
No, I love that. And that's what I understand too. Like every possible infinite version of yourself already exists in spirit. We're physically choosing to, to get on this physical timeline, right? Where time space for, 100 years or something. And the first thing we got to figure out, or that I suggest we figure out, is what do you want, but without limitation? Because not everybody wants to be a multi-billionaire with 10 companies in the sea. Like there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. So the thing I always go back to, and Yun's the same, is what do you love? What would you love? The future version of yourself, future physical expression. What does it look like? Where are you living? What are you doing? Who are you helping? What are you earning? Like all of it. And since we know here that we can achieve literally anything that we hold the image of, stay in a vibration, and take physical action towards, it becomes just more about identifying what you want. And this can confuse the hell out of people too. Some of you here might still be confused on this. Because we can choose anything, it's like, holy cow, that's infinite. And sometimes I see people having a hard time kind of narrowing down what their dominant chief aim is at any given time. And if anybody is having a challenge with that, that's why we do the accountability little laser coaching thing, where we're checking in on your goal and how can we help and things like that. But no, I love that. I love that line of thinking, because that's how I see it too. It becomes not if I can do it, like just got to make a damn choice which way we want to go. So let's see. Blake, do you want to continue here? Belief is given.
Sure. Belief is given as an essential in unmistakable terms, but the father of the dumb child frankly admitted his unbelief, and his child was healed. Jesus gave us a new factor in the words, "Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I know that thou hearest me always," which he spoke before he bade Lazarus to come forth from the tomb, the quality of gratitude for a request already granted. He had no doubt that a living Lazarus would obey his command, although he had been dead 4 days. We have a record too of his prayer at Gethsemane, and this adds to our concept of what prayer is. For he said, "Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done." His submission to the will of God is plain, for you remember that he refused to call for the 12 legions of angels to save the corporeal body. It is significant too that during this time of tremendous agony, he rebuked Peter, who smote off the ear of the servant of the high priest. And just let me know when you want me to stop, Brian.
Anybody, when they have something they want to comment, we'll jump in.
Okay.
And you too, if something sparks you, feel free to comment.
I'm just focused on reading it clearly and not thinking so much.
No worries.
Anybody out there want to chime in, or I should just keep going?
I think, Brian, the previous page there where it says you have gratitude before you ask, that's a pretty powerful statement right there. The quality of gratitude for a request already granted.
Oh, okay. That's yeah. So there's quite a few that are far more studied in theology than I, and definitely raise your hand if you have something to add, because it's, my strengths are more in the scientific and metaphysical side. Michael?
I was just thinking the first sentence, belief is given as an essential in unmistakable terms, but the father, the dumb child, frankly admitted his unbelief. It just reminded me of Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The father with the son who was born with no ears and no hearing, and Napoleon Hill just refused. He refused to see anything but a child that could hear.
Mhm.
And so when I see that, it just reminds me of that. It's
The unique parallel. Yeah, it's
Yep.
That was an actual story of a child that couldn't hear. This is
right.
yeah. No,
But it was
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, it was unwavering. Like when I just happened to be reading Think and Grow Rich again last night, that part, and his belief that his son would hear was just unwavering.
Mhm.
And that's what I see here too. So
100%. It's a good story. Young?
So just to expand on that, I think it's just so beautiful when you really think about our own desire. So you go back to Napoleon Hill, right? And his own desire to have his son here. And then think about all the other people that became activated in actually creating that didn't know, that didn't feel, right? And so when you go back to, and again, the next book is going to be The Science of Getting Rich, but that feeling of it is our duty and our obligation to become as rich as possible in every expansion. And to add upon what you were saying, Blake, yes, that parallel universe app, all of those things exist. And the question, and to extend off what Brian said, well, what does that look like? What do you desire? Because it is through our desires that the entire human consciousness elevates. Because every single time we desire more, right? All these other people are part of that whole plan to create it. So everybody continues to elevate. So the massive mission, right, to really fully educate the masses that the truth of the planet is faith and abundance, like no one can believe. And that the reality of it is that we've been programmed under fear and lack for many, many previous generations. And we're here to really switch that story up. Right?
Well, 100%. I think for the first time in history, the evidence would say that the entire history of the planet has been in, for the most part, the masses have been in fear and lack, and it's been a control mechanism for some different religions over time and different groups of people over time. I feel the same way, that now, mostly because of the internet and like knowledge is omnipresent and people can find it without traditionally, they're going outside of the lanes this is like the last, 30 to 50 years. This is not centuries old. But there's still like somewhere between less than 1%, maybe 2%. Everything that is created happens from like less than 1% of the planet right now. So we're still in a state of global ignorance, which just means not knowing, which is why so many people here are committed to getting that information out.
Right. One more thing to add is that feminine energy that we talk about, which is that creative, that love, that abundance, right? And with that said, it is here. And I will share with you the thing that's going to show up over the next couple of years through what we consider space and time is people's truth are going to be unveiled. There's been a lot of people and corporations that's been hiding behind whatever mask it is, right? Through corporations, through businesses. And yet the reality of it is the energy's here and it's really revealing people's truth, which is exactly the importance of alignment.
100%.
I wanted to end with that. Thank you.
That's good. Thank you. Nelson?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the propaganda, the programming that's out there that's been around for a long time. I think, in my opinion, I'm more aware of it than ever, that it's a spiritual battle, right? Why would and I think it's ramping up more than ever, especially over the past few years with COVID and with all the stuff going on in the world. I mean, there's absolutely fear being just pushed into the world. And at the same time, with that fear being pushed in the world, I think there's also a massive awakening, because I can't remember who I was talking about it the other day with, but with COVID, people either went into more fear or they went into, wait a minute, what's going on? What am I doing with my life? Right. So really it's, the mission that you're talking about, units, it's how do you wake more people up? And I think people are waking up, but I think they're waking up to, it doesn't feel right. It's a spiritual battle that's taking place 100%. And fear just continues to keep people in a low state of vibration to where they will not grow and continue to grow with human consciousness. You know what I mean?
Oh, 1,000,000%. I mean, COVID's a really good example. It looked like there was governments around the world were pushing that fear, right? And do this, do that, get these vaccinations. Like, I didn't do any of that shit. I did not stop living. I kept traveling. I did not take anything. Now, I do have a card that says I'm vaccinated with the CDC, but that doesn't mean I took anything. There's ways around everything, guys. So, especially in this group, this is the group, in my opinion, of people that are going forth to change the planet. And Ivan and I's mission is to take what we have in Elite 100 and duplicate it in 100 countries all over the world. Part of me bringing Ivan in, or us joining forces, is because he already has a global presence. So we're literally building this out. The entire ascension model, from mindset masters for a few pennies all the way up to what you guys have here. And then we intend to go around the world with this as our part of exactly what you guys are talking, like, how do we educate everyone? And I remember talking to Bob about this, because his big mission before he passed was duplicating people like us, like PGI consultants. And when I met him, his goal was, 6,000 globally. And I was like, wow, why not 100? First thing out of my mouth, why not 100,000? Because the left brain part of me said 100,000 consultants globally, each one only has to touch like 7,500 people. That's totally doable. Like, boom, touch the whole planet. So what I'm doing, what you and Chris, a lot of you guys that are, well, actually, a lot of you are in coaching in different forms. I think that's what we're all coming together to do here is either, build ourselves to such a high level of what people call wealth that we now have influence. And then when we speak or suggest something, millions of people follow our advice, right? I feel like, everybody's on different parts of that journey, but somebody else had their hand up. Was it Lenny?
Yes, but I'll have to go back a little bit to make this comment. When I look at this book, I see a different book every time, but it doesn't stop me from going and looking at this book, because when I look at this book, I realize that God is working through me. He's not working for me, he's working through me. And for me to become the best version of Lenny, I'm serving God to that nth level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my spiritual side. But also in my office, I have a quote from a guy named Steve Prefontaine. And he said, to give anything but your best is to not give the right gift. You're
Mhm.
wasting the gift. If you don't give your best, you're wasting
Almost
the gift.
disrespectful to
And this
God,
is our
right?
gift. Two different perspectives.
Yeah. Yeah, I forget the quote. Maybe one of you knows that. There's been so many books over so many years. It's like God's greatest gift to us was, I think, the gift of creation. Our gift back is how we use it. I'm butchering it, but it's something like that. Like our gift back to God is becoming the higher, fuller expression of ourselves. Cool. Mr. Dalton, you want to start here, buddy? Intent.
Yes, sir. Intent, a specific desire, one that harms no one but works for the general good.
Oh, actually,
Belief.
let me back up a second. Sorry, we have then discovered certain essentials. Sorry, they're describing like the essential steps to prayer. My bad.
Gotcha. So there we.
Yep.
We have then discovered certain essentials to prayer. One, intent, a specific desire, one that harms no one but works for the general good. Two, belief, or a wholehearted desire to believe. Faith, love of God and fellow man, lack of resentment in any form. Three, knowledge, knowledge that our desire is already granted, and gratitude that is so. Emotion, the father cried out with tears. Beginning in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling to the ground. Willingness to surrender to divine will. Poets happily define prayer for us.
So there's a reason I highlighted in blue certain words here, right? So as we go to meditate or tap into source, as it results in creation, I'm not talking about transcendence and TM, I'm talking about when you're meditating on creation, a crystal clear intent, what we call a C-type goal, you'd bring that to mind, right? Reconnecting to belief, understanding what you believe will happen will happen. The knowledge in your field, gratitude, emotion, right? Getting in an emotional state. And then a willingness to surrender. And Maddie, I wanted to ask you on this one, because this is something I've seen you do over the past year or so. What I see is a surrendering to God, a willingness to surrender. Am I accurate there, or what's?
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest transformation over the past year was kind of getting rid of my personal agenda and receiving direction versus telling God what I wanted. I receive now. And it may be the same thing, just a different way of asking or going about it. I used to think about intent from my mind, and now I think about it from like here. Like it comes through my body in here versus like a logical thought process, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. Yeah, it's raising your level of awareness from physical to spiritual. It sounds like you're getting spiritual guidance instead of intellectual study.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tapping into your intuition, you know, and there's a place in your brain, I forget what it's called. Someone might be able to help me out. Where we literally receive intuition. And you can build that muscle, you can build that relationship with that part of yourself, and receive guidance from God or whatever you believe in. So instead of saying, what do I want as a fleshy human, I now say, what does God want to work through me? And then I'm obedient to that.
I love it. So if you guys want to take a screenshot of this, I highlighted those words in blue as a precursor to before I meditate about my goal. Right? It's almost like a warm up to meditation to make sure it's like check, 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 check. And again, obviously very left brain. But if you're pissed off or angry, like, you know, my suggestion would be not to think about your goal in that low vibrational state. And again, that's just my suggestion. So when I go through this, it's like ramping up and then connecting the source. Just something that helped me out. Maddie, do you want to take over here? Prayer is?
Sure. Prayer is the soul's sincere desire, uttered or unexpressed, the motion of a hidden fire that trembles in the breast. James Montgomery. He prayeth best who loveth best, all things both great and small. For the dear God who loveth us, he made and loveth all. Samuel Taylor Coleridge. From every place below the skies, the grateful song, the fervent prayer. The incess of the heart may rise to heaven and find acceptance there. John Pierpont. We have then two kinds of prayer. The first is involuntary, for it is our habitual attitude towards God, a believing, loving, grateful attitude if we pray aright. The other is the period in which we go apart to clarify our desire, to renew our faith, and to express our gratitude.
So this was the big one for me. And this is what we teach about, right? It's like when you're consciously awake, you're praying all the time. It's just, do we realize it? What is the background attitude while you're doing like your job, whatever you're doing throughout the day? And it's over the period of the last 10 years or so, I've conditioned myself to be in a constant state of gratitude, which you're just like, I notice like as soon as, if I'm not working and I go to get a bite or something, make a shake, it's just, my mind goes to gratitude. Like, thank God I have a refrigerator, a shake, a body, like it just goes into that loop, into a Thanksgiving mode, constant state of gratitude mode. And Maddie can tell you that was not always my conditioning at all, right? Not at all. I didn't know what the hell that was. So this is the part I believe that most people need to gain awareness in. Two kinds of prayer. The first is involuntary. Most people know about the second one, where they go to a building or they do something specifically to tap into source and pray, which is amazing. It's probably a heightened level of energy. But what about the other, 23 hours of the day, whatever that is? Who knows what fervent means? Fervent prayer. I don't know what the word fervent means.
It's like passionate.
Is that what it means? Yeah, passionate.
Zealous. Yeah, like zealous.
Cool,
That's
thanks.
yeah.
Anybody else have anything on this before we hit the next page?
Sorry, Brian. The last part, Brian, there reminds me of what you often say is like, you surrender, ask, wait for answer. And that's sort of that just kind of being state where you're kind of waiting for the response, right? I think that's pretty effective too through meditation, et cetera. So that's underscores the importance of really allowing yourself the grace to sit with yourself quietly every day and just reflect in many cases about what you want or what's going on, et cetera, in your life. So I think that's what that kind of implies to me.
Well, this willingness to surrender is still something I need to remind myself of, and I mean, it's even like yesterday and this morning. If I find myself tapping in the source and gratitude and praying for certain things, I had to remind myself that faith is knowing. And I'm like, why are you even thinking about this, bro? It's done. I was like praying for an outcome, but if we have faith and we are willing to surrender, then I just do my part of the deal. That actually happened like yesterday in the shower. There's something that's like going on business wise. I'm like, wait a minute. Faith is knowing. Like you shouldn't even be worrying. You shouldn't be bouncing back and forth between is it done and worrying, which I was. And I literally talked myself off the ledge by, I guess, raising my level of awareness and reminding myself, if we actually have faith, I wouldn't even be thinking these things. And then I stopped thinking the things and moved to gratitude. So believe me when I tell you guys that we're all in the same boat. I use this stuff. I have reason to use this stuff just as much as anybody. Just, just because we teach it doesn't mean we're not sometimes stuck in the intellectual, physical. And I have to remind myself to raise my level of awareness. Michael?
I just wanted to say that I haven't gotten to this chapter yet. I'm on chapter 3, but that James Montgomery quote is amazing. Like it stirs something in my soul right now, just reading it. It's just when you have something that you just really desire, and that's the way it feels. Like the energy is so high. I just love that. That's an amazing quote. Yeah.
What's really cool is like 3 years from now, when you read this book again, like you'll be so much more aware. It'll probably mean something else and then something. And I remember Bob telling me when I was first working with him, it's like the book Think and Grow Rich. I mean, who reads a book for 63 years and continues to get more and more and more? It's like we become way more aware. So when we look at something again 5 years later, it can mean totally something else. And I think that's what's cool about what you're saying there. This book, if you continue to put it in your top 10 or something, which it's in my top 10, I love that. Well, awesome. Why don't we, Maddie?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, on the previous page is talking about how it's talking about surrendering and then praying and having belief in that prayer and knowing that it's done. For me, when I used to use affirmations and like my own self to believe in a thing or to believe myself that something was done or finished or taken care of, it was the worry and the doubt and then the faith and like back and forth battle all the time when it was just me and me. And once I started praying and wrapping my requests in dear Lord or dear God, blah, 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 amen. Now it's like I say it, I send it, and I have full peace and clarity and knowingness that it's taken care of and it's going to work out in a way that's better than I could ever have imagined. And I don't worry about things anymore. So I would just encourage you guys, like at this level of belief in the content, to just lean into that power even more. Like you don't have to do it all by yourself. Like you can just ask and it can be taken care of for you. And I think you'll be surprised if you just play around with that. Like, dear Lord, I'm struggling with this. Can you please help? Like, just like you're talking to your earthly father, and then say amen. And just watch. I'm telling you, it's crazy. It heightened up everything for me. So just want to share that with you guys.
No, I love that. I know you, not so long ago, even you used to worry about things. And I think everybody, especially as you're younger, you worry and it creates anxiety, expresses to and through us, and we get anxious and panicky and all kinds of things. So that surrendering part, what you said is we don't have to do it alone. I would say you can't do it alone. We can't do it alone. Not anything of big expression. If we're going to create at a higher level, whether we realize it or not is irrelevant. There's a co-creation, everything physical. Right? We always say we can plant the carrot seed, but you can't grow it. So whatever else is growing that seed is what we call God. And the other side of that is, like I always say, these iPhones don't grow on trees. Like God never could have done this without the human element. Whether this is good or bad, I don't know. But we have buildings and trains and all these, this global interconnection and infrastructure that we've built that if man wasn't here wouldn't exist, right? The dinosaurs didn't create bridges and roads and infrastructure and the ability to travel to different planets. So the co-creation part, I think, is where we let go and let God. The more we understand about it, the less we will worry. And I think if we understand it at a high enough level, you just cease worrying, like literally cease worrying. No doubt, no fear, no worry. It doesn't exist when we're at a high enough level of awareness. And my belief is that we're all doing that here together. Michael?
Just to add to that, for people who are still on the lower level, just kidding. I was at Esther Abraham Hicks, and she was talking about just that concept of giving it to God. And she said, if something's really bothering you, you can take out a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle and write the stuff that you're going to handle and the stuff that God's going to handle. And then once
Interesting.
you write it down, it was awesome. I had something that was bothering me during the cruise and I wrote it down, and then it just went away because I gave it to God, just like Madison said. Yeah.
Well, Bob is a huge believer in getting out of you onto paper, right? When it's in you, you can't, it's in you. You really can't solve the challenge. When it's out of you, you can solve it because you can look at it objectively. Like, how would Esther look at this? How would Bob look at this? How would somebody in the group look at this? So getting things out of you, it's so simple. Most people miss it. That's why he was such a big fan of journaling. Because his true belief is if it's in you, you can't work on it effectively. But if you get the challenge out of you onto paper, especially if you have a mastermind group, it becomes super simple. You just change your perspective, involve your mastermind, whatever it is, and you'll solve things super quick. So that's what I love about this group. Awesome, everybody. Oh, that's Chris. Yes, Chris, I am teaching TR this evening in your group, wherever you're at. Looking forward to it. Blake, do you want to chat about Thursday at 5? We're going to get that link in the chat group there.
I will get you guys a link as soon as possible. I'm working on spinning up some copy to help you guys understand what we're going to be talking about, but it's really the continuation of what Dave shared in the State of the Union market research webinar. We'll get into kind of a little bit of research toward the beginning, explaining why we like private lending right now as compared to other asset classes. And then something we haven't done, I'm trying to work on it right now. When we've sort of offered this opportunity to people in the past, it's usually been a kind of why is private lending worth pursuing? And for this group, I wanted to make it less of a sale and more of a, here's what you need to understand as a private lender, and actually take them through kind of a condensed version of the workshop. It's a 2.5-day workshop, so to try and cram everything into an hour is going to be a real challenge, and that's what I'm struggling with right now. But I'm going to get it done for you guys, and I think it's going to be a kick-ass use of an hour of your time. So hope to see you all there.
Cool, awesome. We'll look for that in the group chat there, the WhatsApp chat. That's where we communicate for you. So for right now, if you want to attend, just block out Thursday at 5, and we'll get you guys the link. All right, everybody, have a great week. Be well. God bless. Let's go forth and conquer the world.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. See you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
See you guys.